a guy who I respect, a guy who I love his tweets and I love his sarcasm sometimes, his criticism, but it's just his information. Great follow on X, on Twitter, at SL Mandel. He's my guy, Stewart Mandel, editor-in-chief, college football for The Athletic. Are you just as excited as I am, Stewart, that college football is here? We don't have to talk about litigations anymore or suspensions. We could just talk about the play on the field, Stewart.
I'm so excited. First of all, because of what you said. I feel like I've been writing preview articles for 4 months.
Yes,
and of course, half my predictions will come out completely wrong. So I'm looking forward to having actual games to write about. But also, this is the most exciting season in my lifetime because of the two huge changes to the sport, the 12-team playoff and this most recent round of realignment, which is bringing Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC and
Right.
4 West Coast schools to the Big Ten and so on.
You know, Stewart, it's unbelievable. I was at our ESPN college football seminar a couple weeks ago, and it really dawned and it hit me. And I never thought about it in this way, but they said, this will be the longest college football season ever. And I'm like, wait, what? And you think about it, it is ever. It starts this Saturday, August 24th, and we're going all the way to January 20th. Probably the biggest day ever in the history. I think you have a coronation going on. No, what's going on that day, by the way?
Martin Luther King Day, inauguration
day,
and the national championship.
And national championship. And by the way, the kids are off of school. The biggest day, but I never thought that college football would be this long. Wasn't college football supposed to be like a seasonal 4 or 5 months and you get out? Now it's now turned into 2 basically semesters. It's almost a year-round thing now, and we get a chance to go. It starts on Saturday.
It's not much shorter than the NFL at this point.
Exactly.
Right? The championship games they start around the same time. They actually start a week earlier, and championship games on January 20th, which is only a couple of weeks before the Super Bowl. It's great if you're a college football fan. If you cover the sport and it's your job, and you have a wife and a kid, I'm a little bit nervous for how the season's going to play out. But the biggest effect I think it'll have is it's going to restore a lot of interest in the postseason. I think it had become very stale. Mm-hmm. Especially because there's not a lot of importance now placed on all the other bowl games. So it basically 14 playoff, you waited a month for those 2 semifinal games and then the championship game. And it's fun watching those early bowl games, but they don't have that much impact. Now you're going to get to the conference championship. There's going to be a week off, and then the playoff starts and carries you all the way through the next month.
You know, Stewart, you are a football enthusiast like me, especially in the college game. And I've always said that I've done FCS playoff games and quarterfinals and championships. And I'm saying the model works, and watching guys go out and prove it on the field in an expanded playoff. Now with the college football FBS, or the subdivision, going to the 12-team playoff, I feel like we're going to get more exciting matchups. That 1-loss teams are okay. 2-loss teams maybe even more so okay. Where before it was you had to be perfect. Or if you had 1 loss, when did you get that loss? Was it beginning or the end? Or sometimes be undefeated? Does this take all of that guesswork out of it, and we'll finally have a true champion on the field based on this new format?
I thought it was very symbolic that in the last year of the 14 playoff, Florida State went undefeated and got left out. That will never, ever happen again. If you go 13-0, I don't care if your quarterback are hurt or not, you're going to get a chance to contend for the national championship. Same thing. How many times did we see a group of 5 team like UCF, the Boise State teams way back when, go undefeated and not get a shot? Now that team would certainly get a shot because they'd be the highest ranked group of 5 champion. I don't know that it's going to change so much who wins the national championship, because at the end of the day, those teams are the best teams in the country. And, there's usually a separation between those teams and like the number 11 team. But I do like the idea that more schools, a bigger net of schools, will have a shot in the 14 playoff. Oftentimes you get to mid-November and there'd be 6 schools left playing for 4 spots, and everybody else was playing for a bowl game. And now we will get to mid-November and there might be 20 schools still alive. And some of them will be, teams that you never see on that stage, whether it's a group of 5 team, or let's say Iowa State wins the Big 12 this year. That might not have gotten them the playoff in the past. It will now.
He's the editor-in-chief for the college football for The Athletic. Stewart Mandel joining the Rich Eisen Show. Kirk Morrison here filling in for Rich. So we've talked expansion. We've talked about this longest year in college football we've ever seen. Other than that, the biggest storyline that you have going in, is it a coach? Is it a player? Is it the Heisman? What are you focused on as we begin this college football journey this year?
I think the most interesting team is Ohio State, because they are the poster for this new era of college football where you can try to buy yourself a championship. They spent nobody knows exactly what, but we've heard anywhere from 13 million to 15 more on both retention of all these guys that could have easily turned pro and bringing in a few really high profile transfers. Caleb Downs was a freshman All-American at Alabama. Quinshon Judkins was an all SEC running back. Those guys did not come to Columbus for free. We don't know what they got exactly, but it was probably significant. And so they basically just decided, we're sick of losing to Michigan. We can't believe Michigan won the national championship. We want ours. And so what that means is, like, they will be really good. Nobody doubts that. But it's kind of like national championship or bust. At the very least, Ryan Day better beat Michigan, or I don't know if he'll be allowed to coach in the playoff, even if they make it. So it's an interesting situation that would only happen, in the NIL era.
Well, I would say this too, because Stewart, if you didn't know Will Howard, you better know him now, right? Will Howard's a starting quarterback at Ohio State. I feel like this is, and I've been talking a lot with my broadcast teammates, that every single week, I don't care. We have to continue to keep telling the viewer about the new players for this new team, because every year it's changing so much. It's to a point where I cover the game and I'm like, wait, I forgot he went over there. I forgot that this team over here. I'm looking at Texas's roster and I'm like, wait, Silas Bowden, wait, he was at Oregon State. He's here now. Bond was at Alabama. Wait, it's so confusing. I feel like that every game we must have a time in which we tell, these are the new incoming guys and these are the guys who are no longer here.
Yeah, and that stretches down the roster, right? I mean, everybody, I would imagine even a casual fan knows that that Caleb Downs is at Ohio State now. That Will Howard, like you said, will be the starting quarterback. That Dylan Gabriel, Oklahoma's quarterback the last 2 years, is now at Oregon. But there are going to be guys that you're not all that familiar with who transferred in from a school and are now suddenly the leading receiver for that team or the leading tackler. And some of them, by the way, aren't coming from high-profile programs, like Jared Verse at Florida State the last couple of years, who ended up, becoming an absolute stud pass rusher, came from Albany. We see that all the time now. A lot of the best transfer portal guys come from the lower levels. So you're right, Kirk. You're tuning in to watch a game. You got to put that graphic up right at the beginning of here's who they got in the portal this year and here's who left.
Yeah, see, we've been talking about it here on this program as well. We can't put too many names up there because we don't want to confuse the viewers in the bars or at home who are watching on mute. So we got to make sure we got enough names that they can see it clearly. Like, hey, these are the big names who are incoming. These are the ones who are outgoing. Stewart Mandel, editor-in-chief, college football for The Athletic. So you already know it's August 24th will be week 0. It starts. But I always have to ask, because I didn't think that last year Jaden Daniels would have won the Heisman Trophy, and yet he did. And so as we enter this 2024 season, who are the 2 early candidates that we can possibly see represented at that downtown athletic club when it's time to announce the Heisman?
The guy I'm really high on is Jalen Milroe at Alabama. Because, I mean, first of all, he was in the top 10 Heisman votes last year.
Right.
Obviously, everybody remembers the Iron Bowl in the 4th and 30. But that was a very limited offense he was playing in last year. They didn't trust him to do much other than throw it deep. Now Kalen DeBoer comes in there. Fantastic offensive coach. You saw what he did at Washington the last couple of years. And I think he's really going to truly unleash him for a team that should be in national title contention. And we've seen, Jaden Daniels is an exception to this last year on a 9-3 team. But for the most part, the Heisman has become linked to the playoff race, and the winner is usually on one of those contending teams. Obviously there's some uncertainty about Alabama this year because of you just lost the greatest coach in college football history.
Yeah.
But that team is still really good. I actually think that team will be better. They will be better than last year's Alabama team.
Wow. Okay. Carson Beck is another name I know that's out there as well. We'll see him with Georgia and things like that. But I would ask you, Stuart, because I don't think people ask enough about this. How do you view college Saturdays? What is your routine? Because I know you're writing, you got your thoughts going, but you're trying to watch, I don't know, was it 10, 15, 20 games on a Saturday? Take me through the Stewart Mandel process on a normal college football Saturday.
It's not as glamorous as you might think. You know, first of all, I don't go to as many games as I used to because of what you said. Write a column on Saturday night that sums up that tries to get into as many different games as possible. So it's important to watch as many as you can. And some people are like, "Oh, you must have like 5 TV screens going." No, personally, if I feel like if I'm trying to watch too many games at once, I don't end up paying it. I don't pay close attention to any of them, and I don't know what just happened. So I like to work the remote because it's like very active. Like I got to make an effort. I got to be mindful of like which game is going into a commercial break and which game is the team driving down the field. I can't say I never miss a big play. Of course I do, but I try to, at least like the 3 or 4 biggest games in that window, be switching back and forth as much as possible.
So you just like me back in my junior high days, working that previous channel before my parents would come in. Remember that last got to hit previous channel? Like, what you staying up late for? Like, oh no, I was watching something else. Like, no, okay, I'm making sure. Stewart Mandel joining the Rich Eisen Show here on Kirk Morrison joining here for Rich Eisen. The one thing I would ask you is, I'm watching the National Football League and I'm seeing how the NFL, Stewart, has expanded into sort of international waters. You're going to have games, obviously, in Germany. You've got a couple in London. They'll be going to Brazil when the Packers and the Eagles in week 1. Now, this game in Ireland coming up, Florida State, Georgia Tech, is one, and we've seen it kind of over the last couple of years where Notre Dame was a part of it. Do you think that this may be what college football will start to do now in terms of these off-site, neutral site games, that with an expanded playoff, we can play these games that gives us more exposure, that may gives us more of a fan base in other areas? Are these opportunities now going to start to show up more and more on the college football slate?
The Ireland game's been going on for a few years now, and it's gone really well. The Big 12, their commissioner, Brett Yormark, has talked about possibly doing a game in Mexico. They haven't actually announced one yet, but I do think that'll come. But for the most part, I think the difference with college is, you have these on-campus cathedrals, these enormous stadiums, and you only get to use them 7 times a year, right? So I don't think anybody's eager to give up home games to go play. Now, we have seen, obviously, USC is playing LSU in Vegas, right? To open this. There have been like 3 or 4 of those kind of traditional or those annual neutral site games, but even those are starting to fade a little bit. Attendance has been, as popular as the sport is, attendance has been on the decline for a while, especially with students. And I think the schools are starting to realize, you can't just schedule an FCS team and a Sun Belt team and expect 100,000 people to show up. So what we are starting to see, Alabama is a good example of this. For about a decade, they always played in Atlanta or Arlington to open the season, but now they're starting to move back to home and home. They just did one with Texas the last couple of years. They've got, they're playing at Wisconsin this year, and then Wisconsin will come to them, I believe, next year. So I see it actually moving in the other direction toward getting more games back on campus.
Last question for you, Stewart. Before we start this football season, obviously you always got your names at the top. I've seen the preseason top 5s and top 10s. Who is a team outside of maybe the top 10 or even the top 25 of these early preseason polls, which I still just would love to get away with, by the way? We just go play the games first. It doesn't matter. That's not the number 4 team in the country or the number 1 team. Let's let them play it out for a couple weeks. Then we can rank them. But anyway, either here or there, who's a team right now that no one is talking about that we'll be talking about at the end of this college football season?
I think that the ACC has a good chance to produce a surprise champion, and Florida State will be my pick going into it, but they lost a lot of guys from that great team last season. So Miami is a team to keep an eye on. Obviously, they've been disappointing for a long time now, but they have Cam Ward, their quarterback, coming in from Washington State. Damian Martinez, phenomenal running back from Oregon State.
Right.
And it's just not a very hard conference, right? So if they, if they can click on offense like that, I think they'll be really good. And then one that is not even ranked is Virginia Tech.
Yes.
Also has been off the radar for, basically since Frank Beamer retired. They changed quarterbacks mid of last year and they took off. Kyron Drones is a great dual threat QB. They can run the ball. They're starting to play really good defense again. So that's a team that I don't know if they can make the playoff, but if they could rise up and win 10 games, would be a really good season for them.
And then we can't forget about the Kyle McCord revenge tour, right? With
yes.
Syracuse.
Syracuse, yes.
Yeah, he's going to let everybody know that, hey, Ohio State, you should have paid more for me. So we shall see. Man. Stewart, I appreciate all of the time, my man. I know you are the hectic time of the year is approaching, but I'm always following what you've got. So, man, I appreciate all that you do for college football, and can't wait to catch up with you again.
All right, Kirk, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, man. And Stewart Mandel, editor-in-chief, college football for The Athletic. He's a great follow, by the way, at SL Mandel on the Twitter, on the X. Man, I'm telling you, he's going to update you throughout the day.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.